Hello, this is Scott. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where we cover a variety of different data science and analytics topics. Today we're talking about Statistica, which is a commercial platform. Hopefully you've been a part of the series, hands-on series. We're talking about basic statistical concepts, and we're talking about nonparametrics. The last two, this should be part two, which is nonparametric statistical methods in Statistica. So let me get straight into the platform, and we're opening an examples file from data sets, and it's the characteristics data that we've been working with. And which has a variety of different continuous and categorical measures. So last time we did descriptives and dependent sampling, and this time we're going to, independent sampling or hypothesis test for independent groups. This time we're talking about dependent groups or dependent samples, and we are using the statistics platform. If you go to the tab for that, and then the nonparametrics, first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at comparing two dependent samples, and we're going to compare the item, the test item that we did last time, and let me make sure I get the right one, and we're going to compare that to 2 and 3. So test item 1 and 2 and 3, and we're going to actually use this nonparametric sign test. If you want to know more about why we use parametric and nonparametric, see the last video, please, where I described the reason, some of the benefits of parametric test versus nonparametric test. So we're going to use this sign test, a rank test, on this data, and click OK. So what this does is, and it would be beneficial to go back if you haven't, we're comparing different tests on the same student. So this is, if you look at the data itself, the data is such that each row is an individual student, and we want to see if test 1 is different than test 2 versus test 3 at a omnibus null hypothesis. And yes, there is a difference based upon this p-value right here, which is very, very small. So there is a difference by student for that, and we are not assuming any normality or anything else. We're using the sign test, which is nonparametric test, to do that. So there we go. If we want to see what this looks like with, say, a Box-and-Whisker, we can do this. Again, these bottom two tests are talking about, these are really parametric, 1.96. The confidence interval is a parametric test, and we want the non-parametric, just simple percentiles, the 50th, the 25th, and then the range from high to low. So lower quartile, upper quartile, and median. And you can see visually that there's a difference, but that doesn't necessarily mean statistically that there will be a difference. All right, so that is the first example that we want to cover. The second example that we want to cover is, okay, so that was between these three columns. So what about a grouping test? For example, previously we looked at a parametric test where we were looking at test item 1 by hair color. So what about the same thing for a non-parametric test? If you were with me last time, you actually know the answer to this, because we can look at the performance parametric test, which is more powerful than a non-parametric test if the assumptions can be validated. So I'm going to, let me just redo that because I kind of did it pretty quick. So let me, here's my data set. I want to look at this item right here. I want to do a non-parametric test. It's a dependent test, and I want to look at groups. So multiple independent samples. So let me click OK there, select my variables, and again, I'm going to test item 1, and I'm going to do hair color. Does hair color make a difference in the performance for test item 1? Click OK. And so I have different options, by the way. I've kind of glossed over this codes, which is really pretty powerful. So if, for example, I wanted, there are 4 categories within hair color. There's blonde, brown, red, black. So I can select even a subcategory. In other words, if I don't want to look at all categories of hair color, if I just want to look at blonde versus red, this is where I'd specify that, right? I can specify, I can zoom, so I can select just a couple of these, or I can just select all. And by default, we will look at all. So now let me give a summary of this. And is there a difference? Here's my p-value right here in the heading. So I have 3 degrees of freedom. The p-value is 0.59. The null is that there is no difference by hair color. There is no reason to reject the null. Therefore, I assume that hair color does not influence test score. That easy. If I wanted to perform other measures, if I wanted to look at different comparisons, I can certainly do that as well. But this gives us a good idea of the significance level. Excuse me. So, is there anything else? Again, I want to keep these short. I think I'll end today, but yeah, that gives you an idea of the power of nonparametric testing in Statistica. Thanks, and I hope you can join me again.